So fun conversation.
All right.
Stuff.
Yes.
And I had a really productive day today so far.
Oh, and so since it is Thursday, I do have a court meeting right at 1.
Okay. Maeve's been up. Maeve and Caroline have been working for like 9 hours already. I don't know.
I
Okay.
did stop for lunch and talk to my husband, whom I haven't seen since last night.
I stopped
Yeah.
to talk to my gran.
Yeah. And your friend,
Very good.
What friend?
sick
What friend?
friend.
Oh, I didn't talk to her. She's in. Oh, yeah. This is my mom. Passed me. Oh, I'm getting distracted. She passes me a note while I'm on the phone to Caroline.
She wrote her a
Oh,
letter.
Sorry to say that we just heard that a friend of ours' daughter who had dinner here is critically ill in ICU, virus and pulmonary embolism. Please say a prayer for them and all of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, Mom. I mean, I'm just so emotionally full. There's nothing I can lift. I don't have any. Okay, Quentin's here. Hi,
All
Quentin.
right.
Hello.
Right, so I was just saying that Caroline and I have had a very productive day so far, and I think you had a call with Caroline as well.
Yep.
And then
We had about 20 minutes. Well, no, we did have about half an hour, didn't we, Quentin?
Yeah, I think so. We went a little into 10. So
Okay.
so I think that where we're at is we're having the housing TRO call at 3. So we'll be able to do, we don't need to go into the weeds there. I think everything that needs to be discussed, but the TRO can get discussed then, and then we'll report back on Friday. But then we've
Where
got
was
just
it? Oh, yeah.
209A.
Sorry.
Sorry?
Never mind.
We've got 209A stuff now. So maybe we can just update with what we've all been doing, and then the testing update from Michelle. So I can kick off with Caroline, and we can talk about we're doing the flowcharts, which are maybe going to help with the logic and the testing. And with that, we've done an overview flowchart where we did an overview of how all the forms fit together, and then we've charted the ones that are a little bit challenging, things that are not going to just be the normal forms. So the affidavit, the 209A affidavit, and we've played around with that a little bit today. And then also Kate sent us her affidavit of care and custody flowchart, which is, I think it might have changed a little bit since Kate did it.
Yeah, it's definitely out of date because it was before the interview was done, but
it's all like a really good base and everything's connected, so we can just move it around. So that's what I'm going to be doing
Which
later.
ones are done for now, would you say? Like the affidavit and the overall one?
Yeah.
The ones you showed me? Okay.
Yeah.
So we should I will write that on the list in a random document. Sorry.
So so those two are done. And I think that I was showing them to Michelle just now. I think it'll make it easier for writing test scenarios because you can just follow one path. And then once all the paths have been followed, then you've got all your scenarios basically for the affidavit, for example. But the ones that we came across, like the defendant's information, the plaintiff confidential information, we don't really have to do a flowchart for that because it's just filling out a form. That's just, I don't know, that was what Caroline and I felt. I don't know if a flowchart would really be, there's not branch options. You're just filling out the information.
Basically, the form is the flow chart. You just follow the form.
Yeah, I agree. So, because I did the scenarios for the child support affidavit, which is kind of the same way without a lot of like paths and routes, and I didn't need a flow chart.
Yeah,
it was
we do have to test like putting no data into fields that don't require it.
Yeah. So like what I did was sorry?
You've done that. I saw some scenarios that had that.
So like I went through basically like made just a list of all the questions and made sure every possibility was tested.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
awesome. The flow chart wouldn't have, it just would have been a straight line.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah. So basically you still have to write the test, but you don't need the flow chart to guide you to write the test.
Yep.
But the things like the affidavit where you've got things that are branching off and you could go either way.
The affidavit needs a flow chart, yeah. And I think it has one, right?
Yeah.
But we just finished it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the affidavit of care, we've got Kate's one, so that's the one that we need to do next. Maybe we can do that either later today or tomorrow.
Perfect.
And then
maybe Kate can start writing scenarios if she's up for it.
Yeah, should I do scenarios for plaintiff and defendant info, do you think?
The ones that the one Maeve just finished, which is the affidavit.
Okay, yeah, I can do
Or
that.
either that or a simple one, whichever you prefer, just one of them.
whatever you have the mental capacity for.
I'll see
'cause
whether I'm feeling simple or complicated.
And see if there are other people that can work on the other ones, right? While you work on something.
Yeah,
And what else-
I just worry teaching people how to do it, getting them there will take me as much time as doing it myself.
Okay, maybe phase 2 is teaching people then.
Right, that's what I was also thinking. It's like,
Phase 2
okay.
is definitely teaching people. But
Yeah.
I'm so
yes, now
excited
it's time
about
for
that
experience.
those that Tuesday thing, but we'll talk about that later. So I think what I'll send you the link for that flowchart, and then what I was thinking is that we could actually even just put it in like a PDF, and you can just, when you've done one route, you can just highlight that, you know what I mean, or route
Just
A,
draw
route
a line through the route you did.
test case, you know what I mean. You
In
could
your
just maybe you can
PDF
just print it
editor.
out and just write, you know. I'll get you on a phone call and show you what I mean.
And save it as an image or something. And it can be a really low res image. And we can just have a bunch of thumbnails that like we can put at the top of the scenarios, or somewhere in the scenario. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Okay,
that,
so that's
that we can confirm that the scenarios, does that make sense, Kate? Because you look defeated by it, but it doesn't, you don't have to. I mean, that's not a requirement.
No, if I was
I feel
looking
like we're
defeated,
piling
it's
it on
like
top of,
my cases, not
slide.
this.
oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. So, okay, flowcharts. I
So
think
that's that on flows.
awesome.
So not everything is going to get a flowchart, but the things that are complicated and that have different options going off them, they will get flowcharts. And there's also a flowchart for how everything fits in together.
And that actually identified really nicely that there are a lot of forms that can be tested fairly independently. They will still have to be tested together as well to make sure that everything still works, but that they can have a lot of independent testing. At least, like, we found stuff on PDFs already that we're like, this is suboptimal, like we're finding things.
That's great. That's good.
That some of the PDF stuff we're like, we won't report it. We'll just try and, I think if we can get Melanie to deal with, because she's done the PDF editing before, right?
Yeah.
So if we can get her to do those. Then there's definitely page 1 and page 2 need to probably be done together at the same time. Maybe with the affidavit too, or maybe with those variables just defined. But they're going to need variables from elsewhere, and so they will probably mostly be tested with the whole interview, or with just later variables defined so that we can test the PDF. But it's really, the flowchart is really identified, has really clarified what needs to, like, how we might be able to cut down on the amount of work we're doing.
And also just for people who don't understand how it all fits together, it's quite a nice visual tool so that people can see coming into it, oh, this is where these things fit in. So that's okay. I'm just conscious of time too. We've got limited time today.
Right. So
that's all on the flowcharts. And what else did we need to talk about?
Well, I
everyone's
think we
out.
should hear a bit from Quentin about what kind of, like, where he's at with the various, because he has like 5 million tasks he's doing. So it'd be good to know.
So Lily and Mark and I got started yesterday evening on the addenda. I'm not 100% positive how fast we'll get those done yet after our conversation, but it was good. One thing that was really good is I went through and I did a draft of which fields I thought needed an addendum. Mm-hmm. So if someone wants to take a look at those and make sure that my thoughts are right, just go ahead and make changes there.
That, Kate?
I don't know if you put the right link.
We were struggling with links in terms of there was a file missing.
It looks like you linked to the plaintiff confidential information form, unless I'm just being dumb. You made a post on the Slack.
I did, yeah.
Tagging me and Caroline, but then all I see is just the plaintiff confidential information form on the Trello board.
Oh, let me see.
And I didn't
Which one
comment
was it
because I
on, the
thought maybe
2-9?
I was being stupid. So I was like, I
Stuff
don't want to
like that.
reply and ask.
Kate, always comment. I look stupid all the time, but then I often get answers.
I don't know, like this
I'll double
self-deprecation.
check.
Quentin knows I'm
Figure it
happy to
out.
look like an idiot. No,
Oh, well, I don't think that happens.
oh, that's
Oh,
very
let me see. Interesting. Yeah, that does look like
Caroline,
Caroline, you're muted.
And your mouth is not showing, so it's hard to tell when you're.
I don't know how that happened, but I'll make sure it's the right link. But anyway,
Okay.
it seemed like there were a couple places where we only needed at most one addendum. And, oh no, I think that is the right link.
So it got,
I'm not
I
sure
think
why
there,
it was
I
called
think
that.
there's a, Kate, I think there's a list on that card. I looked at it this morning because at first I thought this doesn't make sense. And then I thought, well, and I think there's a comment. I think Quentin, did you put a comment?
Oh, I see
I
it.
did put a comment on there.
And that's
And
where it is.
I don't know why I put it on that card, but the list is there.
Yeah, it's in the
I could have
comments
scrolled
on
down
the
and seen that.
on the card. So it's a little, you have to look a little harder.
Yeah, I
I'll
didn't
put
look
it
very
in-
hard.
I'll put it directly on
Quentin just wants
Slack.
to make you work for it. He's like, it's a learning.
Well, somebody's got to
experience.
think at least as hard as he is.
Yeah, that's right.
It's getting a little late last night when we did it because we were on Mark's time.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, that's true.
So I put it right on the Slack, which is that'll be fine for me. I'll leave it on the card because I think Mark and possibly Lily are going to keep referring to
Counting
that.
on looking
So
for it there, yeah.
So yeah, if you could find those and assign people to like see what they think needs an addenda and confirm that Quentin's covered all the bases. That's it,
Yeah.
Kate. That's you, Kate.
And what I think we may want to do is in the testing, uncover fields where it's worth manually saying you can only enter this many characters on this field because people might enter a little bit more and have it cut off.
We can put character limits as well. Like with min
Yeah.
and
But
stuff,
a
and I
warning,
think
I
that
think,
would be important
yeah.
too.
Right. And we have to figure out how much time to spend doing that because obviously we
Yeah.
have like
Yes.
500 variables.
Minimum viable product, yeah.
But it might be worth doing it on some places where like this really shouldn't go in an addenda. It will just be confusing to the judge, but people might put a little bit over the limit and they just have to be told to edit themselves. I mean, one thing we have is the preview, which isn't on yet, but once we have the preview, people will be able to see where text is cut off. So that solves part of that issue. And
I don't
then
think people will look that closely. Just
I think that is true, especially if it's like 12, 13 pages. They probably won't catch those problems, but we have to decide what we can do. I think
totally
adding 500 lengths that are custom coded is going to be possible.
Totally agreed.
Yeah.
We could add that feature to the interview generator at one point. Actually, Mark was very interested in that feature and how to automatically figure out the limit of the number of characters that can go in each field.
Sure.
But I think that has to be something we put off for the next few weeks.
Okay.
Too hard. So that's that. And then I've been working today on the review screens, which I do think are going to be really important for us to have at release. And I've been working with Caroline as issues came up that she wanted some help implementing. But I think otherwise, I'm not touching the logic of the forms or the text of the forms. I'm just working on these extra features that weren't implemented yet.
So we can really dive into testing them at this point.
I think there still will be things that come up because Caroline, you haven't gone quite through the whole form yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I will not be making those changes until Caroline's proposed them at this point.
Okay.
I might dive in on some of the issues if I need a break from the review screens, which are very tedious. I'm not sure how to automate this better.
But we're thinking we can still test, right? Or you?
Yeah, I don't think it'll stop Michelle from testing. I think,
right, yeah,
because we know things might change,
yeah,
but it's
like
pretty
you're
stable
saying
now.
with the things with the PDF fields and maybe a logic not going the way we think it should go.
Yeah, the things I would fix from issues were, they wouldn't really cause the testing to change. It would just fix an issue someone caught.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just looking at the time now. We've got like 13 minutes. That all sounds good. I mean, if Kate can appoint somebody just to check, I mean, if you can, to check Quentin's logic on the addenda, whether that, checks out.
And if you can't, let us know so that
so that we can try and find somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
I have a work meeting for a couple hours after this, but after that I can do
Okay.
but it might
Did
be a couple
we-
hours.
Quentin, when we were talking about what's happening tomorrow, were you thinking that we would give this as a working beta to Donna and whoever the other person was tomorrow, or were you going to demo it to them and let them try? We were just wondering where we are with that, because that would affect a little bit what we would do today.
Great question. So David, I think when we talked earlier, we said basically it would depend on where we were, which way it went.
Yeah.
But so you're definitely meeting with them tomorrow, and then the decision will be
Well,
taken.
actually, Laura's meeting with one person today,
Oh,
not
wait,
sharing anything
wait,
with them,
so-
just talking,
Oh, not sharing. Okay.
Oh,
not sharing
okay.
anything with them, just
But
to
it-
talk with them.
okay.
might
And then
be-
that's
I
going to
think-
probably lead to a real meeting with sharing next week.
Do you think it would be good to have Chris in on that if possible, because he might be able to, like, if Laura,
It depends
I think
upon
you
the
said,
Yeah, it depends upon the nature of the next meeting. Right now, it's
So,
sort of
yeah,
not at
so
the fine grain level yet.
So I wanna just say to the, because I mean, in designing the thing, like I think setting expectations from the beginning might help, and also him understanding people's goals and people's needs, right? Might help, but if not, then not, but it might be worth, and
I
also
think it's-
getting to know him, you know?
Yeah, I think it's fluid, and we'll see where it goes. I think right now it's.
Okay,
Well, I know right now it's just Laura and the head of this one other organization.
okay.
And
So
without any sharing.
but David, what you're saying is there's not going to be any sharing today or tomorrow.
No,
Right. Okay. All right.
I
So
would
that
like it
helps
so
us,
that we
Quentin.
were able to share. So the thing that's important for us from a deadline standpoint is once we get to the point where you feel you're ready to share, that's when we enter phase 2. So whether or not there's political paperwork,
Right.
organization or stuff that stops us from moving on, but it means that then people can stop being all 209A all the time. Some people are
Oh,
probably going to stay
goodness.
on 209A all the time because that's where their resources are and then
Yeah.
their skills are. But we can then start to shift other people other places.
Okay. Okay. So you tell me if you want Chris, and give me a little bit of warning, because then I can actually get him. But I do want to give him a little bit of warning. But I hear you.
Yeah. So we don't
probably
even have a
isn't happening.
time set. I don't even know who would be in the meeting next week. It's still an open question if it would be.
I mean this week, right? So you said.
Yeah, so this week
someone
I
was
shot back to
today.
him and answered to some of his questions. In fact, actually, I tagged Kate and Caroline as folks who might be able to
Okay.
answer his questions better because he had some questions about workflow. I think the biggest issue is that workflow is going to be not what it normally is.
Mhm.
So it's not like the people are walking into the court and the safe plan advocates are helping them do the safe plan in court. So it's going to be some modified workflow. So part of that will depend
Okay.
upon how they have modified their workflow. Maybe Kate, you know how they've done that or have some ideas. I think the main problem is that Safe Plan has not actually been getting referrals. So that's been the real problem, is they don't have anything to develop a workflow around.
Oh.
Right, yeah, the courts just aren't, my understanding is reaching out to the safe plan advocates like we would want.
I think Chris will be able to handle that. He will just account for it.
Yeah, I think
Or that's
what
what he's done in the past. So
what I'd really love to do is, just because of the nature of the calls that are going on now, is
Yep.
keep the calls with Laura and the folks that they are.
sure.
We might do a call with them just to show them as the heads of the organization, with Kate there showing them stuff. But then I definitely want to involve Chris when we actually show it to real people who will be using it. So
Okay.
I imagine there's probably a 2-phased approach here. There'll be some meetings with brass to show it to them, but they're not going to be the actual users. And then we'll set up a meeting with multiple people who will be the actual users. And then that's where Chris really could shine.
Okay. So I think just keep him in the loop, right? He might have bits of input that are surprising that you didn't think of, because a lot of times the user stuff is stuff that we don't think of, that people in general don't think of as relating to user experience considerations, but actually really help someone like Chris assess the situation. I understand that this one is not something that kind of he should be involved
Yeah.
in.
I think we're on the same page.
Okay. All right.
So
As
we've
long
got
as we,
8 minutes.
It's just that there isn't a meeting yet. So there's nothing for me to, but yes.
okay.
I think that the conversation about next Tuesday's kind of learning session can be pushed to tomorrow, or unless that's something that can be covered
That's fair.
quickly now. If there's anything else that's going to take priority that we need to talk about.
I wanted to just
Right.
raise, I thought I had said something about it, but I'm not sure. Again, it's, we started to talk a little bit about that opening generic screen mass access.
Yeah.
Who is mass access? One of the things we don't have any kind of instructions of how to use. I mean, DocAssemble is pretty intuitive. At the same time, who knows to click on green text for more information?
That's the question mark that I was saying. There's a circle and a question mark.
Yeah.
If we can stick that icon next to green text, I think that would be really useful.
Yeah.
So,
but when the text appears in the middle of
then there would be a question mark next to it.
That's
almost like a parenthetical.
Yeah.
I don't know how to keep it from wrapping, but hopefully if they see a question mark and are
Well, if
confused
it's
about
right
something.
next, yeah. I just worry about that in terms of interrupting reading fluency.
Oh, good
Sure.
point.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can, that might be something we can talk to Chris about, or to a visual designer when we get them on board, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
also
think this
how
is
to
definitely
communicate.
important, but not
Say it again?
necessarily MVP. I think this is definitely
Yeah.
important,
Mhm.
but not necessarily MVP.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the very least, maybe we could add a line about if there's a lot of green text that's necessary, then we can add a line in the, read green text for click on green text, tap, select, whatever word we decide.
Yeah. So maybe could you make that an issue on GitHub?
Yep.
That it's just
And then-
something we gotta address.
And
It's
the other
really
thing,
hard to
Quentin
figure out
and
the
I-
right balance for those features because you want to train people to use your system. They want to get right to the forum. The more they read, the slower it is for them to understand it.
Sometimes, with this, like the agree in that very first screen, you can have one of those buttons can be learn about how to use the program. So people can choose to go down and read instructions about using the interview, and other people can just dive right into it.
I like that solution.
that idea of having it be a button. I think that's a good one.
I like that solution a lot. So you could just use the help button, right?
I disagree.
Mhm.
I disagree. I think people get confused and disoriented when the information is separate from. But I think a visual designer is a much better idea than us, and a UX person is a much better idea than us guessing at it.
Well, it's not exactly a guess, but.
So I think that
Okay.
I think that maybe what people were concurring with, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is the idea of having a fast route, an express route, and a off ramp. The nature of what that off ramp should look like is something that
Yeah,
the experience are going to be able to help us on. But
I agree.
I also want to say that we are at the point where we can make decisions, and we don't have to be 100% right now.
Yeah.
It's true.
Because we're going to come back and iterate. So I do want to bias towards action, and we'll come back and hopefully we'll involve people in the process as we're going through. But we also are not precluding the ability to go back.
Sure. Sounds good.
We've got 4 minutes. Anyone want to say anything?
As far as testing goes, we're working out how we can
In the
most
review.
effectively allow our testers to give the most useful feedback and to be the most clear in our instructions. If anybody has experience in that, that would be great, but I suspect there's no one here who does. Once the interviews are more hardened, we'll be able to write automated tests for them. But while it's in flux, like manual testing is really the way to go because it's more flexible. And it's just a matter of, I think, in the learning phase when there's time to train people up properly. But people are being there's a lot of really good feedback and a lot of conversation and So I think we're getting closer to that process. And in the meantime, we are doing useful testing that are finding things. It's just going to be messy for a while.
Yeah.
And there's one thing to ask, which is the debate between, there are things that are going to be wrong on every interview right now, every run of the interview, because the thing hasn't been fixed and everybody's testing 5 minutes apart or at the same time. So like the affidavit, like addendum is going to be attached, is clicked all the time now. So everybody says, you know, there's an addendum that needs to be attached. The thing is, if we tell people, don't report this particular thing, don't report that particular thing, every single thing they want to report, they come to us and they ask, should we report this? And I don't have time for that. So,
Yes,
I'd bias
report
towards
it.
reporting
That's the
more
question.
things.
Yeah, I
I'd
think
bias
that's
towards
right.
reporting more things.
It seems like it would be less time to deduplicate the reports afterwards than to
Yeah.
field.
Yeah, so we're going to also try and start getting people on a track to keep up with the GitHub issues. So as long as that is okay, and as long as people understand that's going on, and so if there are a bunch of them the same, okay, then that's good.
It hasn't been overwhelming yet. We've just had 4 or 5 a day. That's not too bad to sort through.
Yeah, they will increase as the process improves, but yeah,
Yes.
like the two-edged sword. So
Okay.
I've got to run, but I just want to say, you guys are amazing. And I feel, and something with my hand motions there, like I'm going like 1990s Wayne's World. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. So
This is your formal
thank you.
T-shirt for later. When did you do your outfit change?
Oh, I just took off my people wore suits the last time one of these talks are, so I'm gonna look a little more impressive. All right, I've got to go.
All right,
so,
later, David.
Cheers all.
We all go.
I think we all go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.